Welcome back to Game Changer Silicon Valley. We're continuing our discussion tonight on the Alchemist Accelerator with the director, Ravi Balani, and the COO, Danielle D'Agostino. So, great first discussion, first segment there about how you got this started, the fact you've got 17 entrepreneurs per class. You are doing only the enterprise, one way or another. It's a revenue-based focused program. First of all, how difficult is the selection process, and what do they go through to get accepted?
We have around, we accept around 5% of the applications. I think we had around 300 applications for the last class, which was around 17 companies. So it's around, it's in the single-digit percentages. What they go through when they join the program is really the program focuses on 4 key areas: fundraising, sales, mentorship, and then the community. And within each of those areas, we have structured programs, and then we have individual one-on-one sessions that are just unique to that specific company. So, for example, on mentorship, as we described, we have every week we have talks, but then there's also literally a Rolodex of 500 mentors that are available, and there's 3 coaches that are just assigned to that company. And then similarly on fundraising, we have demo days, we have feedback summits, which are structured events, but then outside of that, lots of one-on-one meetings are being set up to give feedback. Do
you provide the document structure for fundraising, or do you let the investors do it?
Well, we do have a default note that we provide as that some companies will use as their lead investment vehicle, but we don't mandate it. So if there's an investor that wants to come in and they have their own paper, we're not paternalistic in mandating it.
Danielle, as the COO, do you help them or find assistance for them on the legal side, the corporate legal structure?
So actually, a big proponent of the program is coming from service providers. So we have a limited amount of partners that we've struck partnerships with in order to provide perks for the founders. And that's one of the good points about joining an accelerator is that we come with not only a network of people, but also help.
So 5% is a pretty selective, small number.
Yeah.
What does a person, what do you say to a person who says, Ravi and Danielle, what do I need to do? You're the one, the place I want to be. What do I have to do? What do you tell that person?
We first say assemble a great team. So we're looking for we're looking for people that are mission driven, and the first test of that is, can you sell your idea to somebody else to join? So the most important criteria for us is the team. And then we're looking for, then secondly, we're looking for the alignment of that team against the market that they're going after. Why is this team the team that's destined to do what they're supposed to be doing?
Danielle, during the 6 months process, which is quite long, do you see companies finding a better strategy?
Yeah, definitely. We take companies before $2 million in funding, so they are very early. A lot can happen within those 6 months. Oftentimes, they're going out trying to find product market fit, and what they initially came in with, sometimes that changes along the way. Usually for the better. Whether it is a fast fail or an acceleration of sorts, in either way, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's the focus.
If they get a fast fail, meaning it just didn't get, do they back up and kind of regroup, and you give them some advice, or they have the advisors and they continue on?
It depends on the person. I would say just if they're mentally done, then in some cases, it's better for them to take a step back, maybe stop the idea altogether, and then come back once they've come with another idea. Or in some cases, they're ready to take on the next challenge. They've seen this as motivation because they've actually figured out what can actually make money in a long-term way. And then they get excited again because then they're able to, sell people on this new idea, take in new team members or get investors. Usually there's potential there.
Building a company is a very difficult thing to do. Do you try to bring that reality to the class, or do you let them learn it through experience?
It's interesting because it's a bifocal exercise being a founder. On the one hand, it is there's incredibly hard work that you need to do in the near term, but then you also have to be inspired by what you want to do to change the world in the long term. And if you get your long-term vision correct, more resources will be given to you. So I think the irony here about how the way that, so to answer your question directly, the way that really gets imparted is through other founders. So that is not something that, the difficulty of the journey is not really something that you could even rationally tell somebody. It's almost like, somebody trying to explain an experience that's just unexplainable. Like you have to sort of experience it, and you've experienced it, Jim, so that's why you know. But if I told you when you started that this was going to happen, cognitively you would have probably been dismissive. So the way that that transmission happens is it happens through, and this is one of the virtues of being in a group, is it's through other people sharing their experiences of what's going on, so that you're simultaneously confronted with the reality, but you also have a support system to make sure that, to get you through that. And then also from founders that are coming from the other side. So during the weekly talks, we very often will bring in very successful founders, and also your coaches are successful founders. And so we do try to distill reality, but then we also try to also serve that with a dosage of support and inspiration. Yeah.
So the program's for 6 months, as we talked about. At some point, they're talking to, how soon do they start talking and meeting with investors, potentially?
They're starting to meet with them very soon. So actually on the third week of the program is the first structured investor feedback summit. And we do that very deliberately because we want to start with the end in mind. So at the end of the program, 60% of the companies will raise capital. The average raise is 2.6 million, and they'll raise institutional capital or significant seed, meaning at least $500,000 within 12 months of graduating. And so the way that we do that, and I think we've been very lucky to have very high success rates there, is that from the very beginning of the program, they're just getting inundated with feedback, especially from the investors on what they need to change or work on over the course of the 24 weeks. Yeah.
Who makes the decision? Is it a team? Is it the two of you to admit a person or a company?
Well, it goes through a few phases. The first phase
is the secret sauce, right?
Yeah. So, and we don't give all the details, but the first phase is there's a written application that gets screened and diligenced. Oftentimes, we are diligencing how the company is connected into us. So we're getting recommendations from the referrers or connections that we have to those founders, and we're trying to find other connections that we have into the founders to validate the quality of them. We will then be assessing the written application, and usually around 15% of the companies will be invited in for an interview. The interview is in front of usually formerly successful founders who are coaches in the program, as well as successful alums, and then there'll be follow-on diligence after that. And it's a decision made by the committee. We do wait. It doesn't have to be a consensus. We do wait for fervent, passionate supporters over. So if we have a passionate minority that wants a company in, they will outweigh a blasé majority, based on how we structure the decision making.
So Danielle, over the course of the last year or two, how has the mixture of entrepreneurs changed? They are both the 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, we'll say, and the young people. A lot of women, more women, some minorities. Is it changing a little bit that way?
Actually, yeah. So I would say a couple years ago when we started, there were definitely more industry leaders. And then along the way, we are seeing this development of more female founders, which is great. Our last class had, I think, 6 companies that had female co-founders or CEOs. I think that might actually be more. And we've also seen an increase in minorities. We have African American led companies as well. And 40% of our classes are international. That number has grown significantly over the last couple of years as we continue to do outreach internationally. So we're getting, it's almost like a college course where you're getting a wide mix of people from all over the world influencing other people's ideas as they grow the business.
So let me get that right. You've got people coming from other countries who do not reside here or have residency applying and getting on a competitive basis. This must really raise the bar. Yeah. And are you able to get them some temporary visa or some H-1B or something like that? Or?
Yeah, the visa situation is it's really idiosyncratic depending upon the country. We do write recommendation letters in, and then depending upon the country, there's different situations.
Different situations. I'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Well, that is absolutely outstanding. Most of the time, investors will say, come here first, get established, spend a year, get your wings, if you will, and then we'll talk to you. Or we'll talk to you, but we really want to see something happen. Yeah,
here's the problem. Is that if you're an international founder and you come to the Valley and you say, if you fund me, I will move. As you know, no VC will fund you. Right? Okay, they'll punt you back to their whoever they know in that country or region, and then you're back to square one. This Valley was built by immigrant founders. And so we have the companies come here, and they're here for our program's longer. It's 6 months at least. Some of the companies actually will take 9 or 12 months to acclimate. And the intention is to actually set up real customers in the United States, and then to really present it as a U.S. company with operations in their homeland.
What do you think we're going to see in the future from your accelerator?
The minority outreach right now, we've been really pleased by just secularly, the trend has naturally gone up. Yeah. So I think our last class had quite a few minority-led and also female-led companies. We're doing a lot more international outreach, and we just see the amount of companies that are coming internationally are really exciting.
So, is it a you're going to find people to run that? Is it I don't want to use a franchise model?
We're figuring out so every country we're being sensitive. Our main criteria is that we want it to be distinctive. So we do think that the best programs will be hybrid programs where they'll be both Silicon Valley and that local region. We're crafting them. There'll likely be a combination of both pre-accelerator programs as well as programs that might be focused on certain verticals where that geography has an unfair competitive advantage.
Good. So many governments, and we get a chance to talk to them, say we want to create a Silicon Valley in our country. And many people, myself included, said, that's a pretty special set of combinations that compound over 30, 40 years. Tough to do, but it sounds like the accelerator model, especially yours or similar ones, are probably the best way to get started, to get this seeded and get it up and running, and it's affordable by the government.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that model actually work pretty well. So I think accelerators are great to seed an ecosystem. And you have seen ecosystems that can rival Silicon Valley. If you look at Israel and the amount of companies that are coming out per capita, if you look at Singapore, if you look at Estonia, these are all small countries that are punching above their weight, boxing above their weight. And what they've done is really create these ecosystems in a very concentrated way. Accelerators naturally do that because they bring everybody together. The challenge then becomes for those ecosystems, you can get to the seed capital, maybe the Series A capital, but then getting to the Series B capital is, I think, where the bottleneck is.
So let me ask you another side of the coin. There's been some criticisms. There are just too many accelerators.
Yeah.
Is there about to be a washout, do you think? I mean, they're going to have to consolidate. Some cannot get another group in, or they just run out of energy and they run out of money.
Well, I do think you're seeing a lot die. So even in the enterprise space recently, we've had Citrix, which is a really phenomenal program, has shut its stores. Having said that, from our experience, even though there's a lot that are dying, the fundamental trend is increasing. So I think you're going to net see twice as many new accelerators pop up as you're going to see accelerators die, just because I think the cost of starting companies are continuing to drop. So there will always be room for new accelerators to be created. Are there too many? I think there needs to be, I welcome competition because I think it's good for the founders. I do think that there needs to be some stabilization so that there's more predictability in building reliable brands for founders to join.
And you're also, seeing this shift, where accelerators are losing the program piece and becoming more like a real VC fund. We've seen that time and time again where a lot of the accelerators now are considering themselves to be a fund, a real fund. We operate as a fund, but I don't think we consider ourselves to be one.
Meaning more of a pure investment fund and less of a educational process.
Yeah.
Program.
Yeah.
So has that happened here in Silicon Valley more, or is it just in general? I haven't. I've seen a few instances. I didn't see it as a trend.
I think it is. So if you look at Techstars, 500 Startups, YC, they've all announced funds. And if you look at how those business models now are shifting, a lot of their economics are going to come from writing bigger checks into companies. And the only issue there becomes then you become a little bit conflicted, right? This is just a natural thing that happens as some industries mature. And I think that'll be, and I think the challenge for most accelerators is the business model.
Yeah. Well, you both have been absolutely delightful.
Thank you.
And I've enjoyed it very much, Robbie and Danielle. And if you have some contact information.
You can go to alchemistaccelerator.com. That's the best place to check out stuff and just say hello. You can email admissions@alchemistaccelerator.com. We'd love for people to reach out.
Good. Danielle, anything different?
I'm more responsive to email, so definitely admissions or Danielle@alchemistaccelerator.com. And we are on Twitter. We're pretty active on Twitter as well.
Delightful to see you and meet you, and again to have you on the show. So I think we're going to have to keep in contact, see how things go, and hear about the future of the Alchemist Accelerator. So thanks so much.
Thank you,
Jim.
This is Jim Carter. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Game Changers Silicon Valley. Each week we'll address an area of innovation that may emerge as a game changer of tomorrow. You can follow us on our website, gamechangers.tv, Facebook, or Twitter. We look forward to your continued interest in upcoming shows.